So today it is January 22nd, 2017. And many wonder what is the event that will trigger Jehovah's judgment upon the nations. Well, it's obviously the nations raging against Israel. But the question again is, what is the event that would cause the nations to rage against Israel? And indeed, this question is asked in Psalm 2 and verse 1. In King James, it says, "Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing?" NET Bible says, "Why do the nations rebel? Why are the countries devising plots that will fail?" International Standard Version says, "Why are the nations in an uproar and their people involved in a vain plot?" So, you get the gist. This is the question that I think may be answered very shortly. Friday, January 20th, Donald John Trump was elected President of the United States of America. The only nation that has just as many Jews in its population as Israel does. The only place on the earth other than the Holy Land where the Jews have found some refuge. And Donald J. Trump, as I referred to in a previous video, he is tied. He is bound to the Jewish people because of his children. He has placed people in his cabinet that plan to, or say they plan to, immediately or almost immediately place the American embassy in Jerusalem where it rightfully belongs. And I saw in an article today, I'm not sure, yes, it was Jerusalem Post, where it says Mahmoud Abbas meets with King Abdullah of Jordan to coordinate moves against possible U.S. embassy relocation. Now, for those of you who are geographical history buffs, let me explain a few things, and you will understand what I'm saying here. Jordan is basically, the peoples are a mix of Moab, Ammon being the city of Ammon, and also Edomites. And of course, the so-called Palestinians, the word Palestinian actually originated from the word Philistine, which the only Philistines are in Gaza. And even that is questionable. These people who call themselves Palestinians today are mainly Edomites, aka Arabs. With that in mind, again, think about this for a minute. It has been the quote-unquote Palestinian/Edomites that has been riling up the world against Israel. And like I said, on the front page of Jerusalem Post today, right there, front and center, Abbas meets King Abdullah of Jordan to coordinate moves against possible U.S. Embassy relocation. And again, I go back to Psalm 2 and verse 1. Why are the nations so angry? Why do they rage? Why are they in an uproar and devising a vain thing? You see, folks, it will come to nothing what they are devising. So who is responsible for this? And what is going to happen to those nations who follow Mahmoud Abbas's lead? You will find the answer in Isaiah 34, beginning in verse 1. Come here, you nations, to hear. That's the Gentiles. And hearken, you people. Let the earth hear and all therein, the world and all the things that come forth from it. For the indignation of Jehovah is upon all the Gentiles, and his fury is upon all their armies. He has utterly destroyed those armies and delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with blood. Ezekiel 38. Verse 4, and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and their host shall fall down like the leaf falls off the vine, and as a falling fig from a fig tree. Folks, this is written, that particular verse, verse 4, is written all through the New Testament. So those of you who rebelliously say that the words of the prophets don't matter, it is you who don't matter. The words of the prophets shall stand. And I'm going to show you a couple of things. Just give me a second. Let's see. Revelation 6 and verse 14. Sixth seal. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every freeman, hid themselves in the dens and the rocks and the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne. That would be Jehovah the Father, and from the wrath of the Lamb, Israel's Messiah, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So, Isaiah 34 confirms Revelation 6, verses 12 through 17. And Revelation verse 6 through 12 and 17 confirms Isaiah 34. And it is in other places. Peter spoke about it. It is in 2 Peter 3 and verse 10. But the day of Jehovah will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth and its works thereof shall be burned up. Now, this is the day of Jehovah's wrath, when he suddenly appears, and he is so hot with anger that everything burns near him. So let's go back to Isaiah 34. Let's find out what happened. Now he's saying, come here, come near you nations. That's verse 1. That's all the Gentiles, and hearken you people, and let the earth hear and all that is therein, the world and all the things that are come forth from it. For the indignation of Jehovah is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies, and all nations, that is all the Gentiles. And he has utterly destroyed them, their armies, and has delivered them to the slaughter. Who brought this? Who brought Jehovah's wrath to the forefront? Who was it that did this? Verse 6. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven, and behold, it shall come down upon Edom, upon the people of my curse to judgment. So what I'm saying here, folks, is that all these nations who have followed the lead of the Edomites, more specifically the Edomites who live in Judea and Samaria and Gaza, their armies, those nations who followed the Edomites, will be dragged down for judgment, and they will all be killed, with the exception of just few enough to get the word out to bring all Israel back home. Verse 8. For this is the day of Jehovah's vengeance, and this is the year of recompenses, payback, because of the controversy of Zion, Jerusalem. Now, if the USA places its embassy in Israeli embassy in Jerusalem, and if this causes the nations to rage and plan a vain thing against Israel, whose fault is it? Is it the fault of the USA? No. It is the fault of those who plot the vain thing in rebellion against their Creator. Verse 9, and the streams thereof shall be turned into tar, and the dust into sulfur, and the land thereof shall become burning tar and oil. The land of the Edomites. And the Edomites' land goes from south of Jordan all the way into the Arabian Peninsula. Now, in verse 16, so people say, oh, this doesn't matter anymore. Verse 16 says, go look in the book of Jehovah. Go look in the Bible and read. Not one of these things shall fail. Not one. Everything you read in Isaiah 34 will happen. It shall not fail. I don't care what your priests of Baal have told you. If you are going to follow those priests of Baal to your destruction, that is your problem. I'm here to tell you right now, the nations are planning a vain thing. I'm here to tell you right now, the Edomites who are squatting in Judea and Samaria and Gaza are leading them to the slaughter. Are you going to follow them? Or are you going to hearken to the words of Isaiah? Are you going to listen to the words of David? Are you going to pay attention and understand where this wickedness comes from? Are you going to refuse to be a part of it no matter who you are? If you are an Arab, you are just as capable of thinking as I am. You need to read the book of Jehovah as he has said so in Isaiah 34 and verse 16. And realize that every single thing that he has said in Isaiah 34 will come to pass. There's no stopping it. And ask yourself, which side do you want to be on? See, Jehovah, the God of Israel, the Elohim of Israel, has set before you life and death. Choose life.